Greetings, this is Amy Wentley with Chai Knuckles Knitting, and this is episode 2021-32, the Emily Scarf, Working Yarn Overs and Decreases. I'm teaching a class on the Emily Scarf. It's a Quince Co pattern, and the class is for beginners, and this video is going to show how to work the different rows of lace patterning for this scarf. For this class, we're going to work a swatch to get used to working the lace pattern. And for that swatch, we cast on 33 stitches. So I have here now 33 stitches cast onto my needle, and I'm going to do the setup row. And when I do the setup row, I'm going to look at my lace chart, and it's going to be a wrong side row. So I am going to count stitches going from left to right here on row 2 and place markers where I need to. I did a previous video on how to read these charts, so if you haven't seen that and you're not familiar with reading charts, you'll want to go back and look at that first. So for my first row here, I'm going to purl. And I am going to purl 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 stitches, and then I am going to place a marker. Okay, so bear with me while I purl 11 stitches. Okay, so I've done 11 stitches. You didn't see all those. I'm sorry, I dropped off the camera. It was really not all that interesting anyway. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then I'm going to take a stitch marker. And you should use a locking stitch marker here, because at some point you're going to have to remove them and place them again. So we'll go ahead and put a marker there. Then on my chart it says I should work 10 stitches, and then I'm going to put another marker. So I'm going to purl 10, Now just a reminder that this is a setup row, so it's really not shown on the chart yet. After we do this setup row, we'll be starting row 1 on the chart. So I worked 10 more stitches, and I'm going to put another one of my stitch markers here. And let me see how many stitches I have left on my needle. So I have room to do 10 more and then 2 left over at the end. So I'm going to do 10 more and place one more marker. Okay, so I got 10 more. I'm going to place a marker, and I'll have 2 more stitches left. And 1, 2. Okay, I'll finish with these 2, and then I'm ready to turn, and I'm going to start row 1 of my chart. I'm going to move my, excuse my little bit of frogginess. I'm going to move my chart up now. And I'm actually going to block this part so you're not distracted. And then, as I said in the video where we talked about reading charts, you're going to want to block all the stitches that are upcoming. So I'm going to lay a piece of paper here so I can just see that first row and work off of that row. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do the various stitches on this chart. Okay, I start out here with 2 stitches and then I'm going to slip the marker. It's 2 knits. 1, 2. And then I slip the marker, and the way I slip the marker is I take my right hand needle, I slip it into the marker and just move it over. That easy. So the next stitches are a yarn over. The way that I do a yarn over is I bring the yarn to the front between the 2 needles. Then I'm just going to go ahead and start the next knit stitch right here. So I'm going to put my needle in the stitch like I'm going to knit, and I take this yarn that's in the front here and I'm going to take it to the back and knit, pulling it through. Now at this point you're going to want to make sure that yarn over is the first stitch after your marker. So make sure it goes over your marker there, doesn't confuse you. Okay, so now I have 2 stitches. I have a yarn over, you can see that there's a hole underneath, and 1 knit stitch. So looking at the chart, I have to do 2 more knit stitches. 2 more knit stitches. So if I look at my needle now, I have a yarn over, and I have 3 knit stitches, 1, 2, 3. So the next stitch here, this symbol represents a slip 1, knit 2 together, and pass the slip stitch over. So the way I do that is to slip the first stitch, I put my needle in like I'm going to knit, and I just push this needle, this stitch off the left hand needle onto the right. That twists it. Then, so that's the slip 1. Then I'm going to knit the next 2 together. So I put my needle in from left to right, like I'm going to knit, into 2 stitches, into both of those stitches. And I'm going to wrap around and pull it through, and that knits those 2 stitches together. Then I want to pass the slipped stitch over. So this one right here, the second one on this needle, that's the stitch I slipped. So I want to take my left hand needle and put it in from left to right and pass it over the first stitch. And that actually takes 3 stitches and turns it into 1. It's a double decrease. It goes from 3 to 1. 3 minus 2, double decrease equals 1. So I'm now there on the chart. Now I have to knit 3. 1, 2, 3. And then next on the chart, it says I need to do a yarn over and a knit. Now I only have 1 stitch here, but that's fine because the yarn over is going to add a stitch. So for the yarn over, I bring my yarn between the 2 needles. That's the first part of the yarn over, and I go to knit the next stitch. I insert my yarn like I'm going to knit, and when I take the yarn over from the front to the back to knit this next stitch, that completes the yarn over. Now this is something that people will make a mistake when they're learning to knit. If they're doing the knit stitch and they bring the yarn to the front by accident, they actually often create a yarn over by accident, but you're doing it on purpose. So you can see the yarn over has a big hole under it and the knit stitch doesn't. Next we're going to slip the marker, and we move it from the left needle to the right needle, just like this, by passing it from one needle to the next. And now we're actually going to repeat this 10 stitch repeat once more. So now we've got 12 stitches done. So we're going to do the next 10 stitches. So it starts with a yarn over. We're going to bring our yarn between the 2 needles. We're going to insert the next stitch. It's the next knit stitch in the chart. We're going to bring the yarn up and over this right needle to make the yarn over while we bring it back to work the next knit stitch. So right there we have a yarn over and a knit 1. So now we have to knit 2 more. And then the next is the slip 1, knit 2 together, pass, slip stitch over. So you're going to slip 1 by going like you're going to knit. This is called slipping knitwise. You're going to slip it by acting like you're going to knit that next stitch and just moving it over to the next needle. That twists it. You're going to knit the next 2 stitches together, and then you're going to take that slipped stitch, the first stitch you slipped, and pass it over that knit stitch. And you're done with that. Then we have to knit 3 stitches, and you will do a yarn over again. And let me just mention on the chart here, the yarn over, the 0, is you bringing the yarn to the front, and then when you go to knit the next stitch, you bring it over the needle. That's the yarn over. The knit stitch is here. So you bring the yarn to the front and you're actually getting ready to work the next stitch right there. But in that process, you're taking the yarn over the top of the needle, which is the yarn over, and you're making that last knit stitch. Okay. Next thing you're going to do is slip the marker again. And then we're done now with the repeats in here, and we're going to work the 11 stitches at the end of this row. So that starts out with a yarn over. It's best to keep your marker out of the way. Yarn over by bringing your yarn to the front, and you're going to work the next knit stitch in the chart. You're going to bring the yarn over the top of the needle to make the yarn over, and then knit this stitch. And then you're going to knit 2 more stitches, and then you're going to do a slip 1, knit 2 together, pass, slip stitch over. So slip 1 as if to knit, knit 2 together, and then you're going to pass the slipped stitch, which is this one, over the first stitch. You will knit 3, and then you will yarn over. That's knit 3. Then you will yarn over by bringing the yarn to the front between both of the needles, then knitting the next stitch and knitting 1 more stitch, and you're at the end of the row. Now it's a good idea when you finish a row like this that you go back and look at your chart and check the stitches on your needle. So it's knit 2 right here. So these are the knit 2. Then the next is a yarn over and knit 3. So this is a yarn over. You can tell because there's nothing attaching it to the work underneath. There's just a hole there. It's a yarn over, and that's knit 1, 2, 3. Then the next stitch is the slip 1, knit 2 together, pass, slip stitch over, and you can see that here. It looks kind of lumpy. It's those 3 stitches all smushed into 1. So that's right. And then knit 3, 1, 2, 3. And then the next stitch is a yarn over, and that's it right here. And then the next stitch is a knit. Okay. Now there's a chance, because you've got a yarn over at the front of this next repeat, your stitch marker might get moved around. And if you notice at the end of this repeat that you have a knit 1 and then a yarn over, it might be that that stitch just moved. So scooch it back so that the next repeat starts with a yarn over. So you've got a yarn over, there's the hole, and you're going to have a knit 3, 1, 2, 3, and then this is the slip 1, knit 2 together, pass, slip stitch over, big lumpy stitch, and then you're going to have 3 more, 1, 2, 3, and then a yarn over and a knit 1. Great. Then these last 11 stitches, you're going to start with a yarn over. It's here. Knit 3, and then here's your slip 1, knit 2 together, pass slip stitch over the lumpy stitch. And you're going to have 3, knit 3, and a yarn over and a knit 1, 2, knit 1, 2, 1, 2, 2. So I was good. If you do find a mistake, the 2 mistakes that you might find is that you might have forgotten to do a yarn over. If you did, we can catch that on the next side. And I do have a video on that under the fixing lace mistakes. You also might have forgotten to pass the slip stitch over on this slip 1, knit 2 together, pass slip stitch over. So you might have an extra stitch there. That can be fixed on the next row also. So make sure you count your stitches at the end of every row. You should have 10 stitches between each one of these repeat markers. You should have 11 stitches at the end, 2 stitches at the beginning. If you ever find that you've got more or less between those markers, that's your clue that you've made a mistake somewhere, and we're going to have to try to address that. Okay, when you get to row 2, the backside row, you are going to purl all the way across all the stitches and slip the markers as you go. I'm not going to laboriously take you through that right now. I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording, and I'm going to finish row 2. And then what we're going to do is we're going to jump up to row 9, because I'm going to show you how to move your markers when you get up there and how to work the different instructions for rows 9 through 16. So I'm pausing for a second. I'll be right back. Hi, I'm back. So on this portion, I'm going to show you how to work row 9 and the subsequent rows. So at row 9, you're going to want to move your markers, because you'll see that you had a marker here after stitch 2 on row 8. You're going to want to now move it to after stitch 7. Wait, 1, 2, 3. Yep, 7 on row 9. So what we're going to do is you can, if you're using circular needles, you go ahead and move all your stitches to the cord if you can. You're going to go ahead and unlock the first marker, and you're going to count over 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you're going to put your marker after stitch 7. And then you'll take out the next marker. And from that first marker, you're going to count 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you'll put the marker back there. And then you'll take out the next marker. And from this marker, you're going to count 10 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And at this point, you should have 6 stitches left over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now you're ready to start row 9. You're going to do the same thing after you finish row 16. When you get to row 1, you're going to go ahead and, in the same way, you're going to move those stitch markers back to 2 and 12 and 22 and 32. Okay? So for row 9, we're going to follow this along together, and you can see how to do the stitches. So we're going to start out by knitting 1, and then that next symbol, and I'm up here. Okay, this is row 9. And I like to keep this so I can see it, see what happens underneath, just so I understand what stitches I'm building on. So if you look at this, to do knit 2 together, you're going to be knitting these 2 stitches together. So you take your right hand needle and you put it in the next 2 stitches as if you're going to knit, and you wrap the yarn around and pull it through those 2 stitches, and you have now knit those 2 stitches together. That's that square there. Then I'm going to knit 3. 1, 2, 3, and then I will yarn over. So I'm going to bring the yarn to the front, and I'm going to get ready to knit the next stitch. Insert as if to knit. I'm going to take this yarn that's in the front here and take it over the right hand needle and to the back to work that next knit stitch. So I'm right there. I'm going to slip the marker, and make sure you keep the marker out of the way. You're going to do a yarn over, bring the yarn to the front. You're going to start to work the next stitch, and you're going to bring the yarn around that marker there over the top of the right needle and to the back to finish that first stitch. So here you've got the yarn over and the knit 1, and you need to knit 2 more. This is very similar to what you did at the beginning. The only difference on these rows is you have a knit 2 together at the beginning and a slip knit at the end. So I've got a yarn over and knit 3, and the next one is going to be a slip 1, knit 2 together, pass slip stitch over. So slip 1 as if to knit, knit 2 together, pass slip stitch over, and that's done. So then you need to knit 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to do a yarn over and a knit 1. So yarn over is bringing it between the 2 needles, starting to work the knit 1 and take it over the top and finish that knit 1, and you're done with that 10. So you want to go back here to this orange line again, slip your marker, and you're going to do a yarn over next. So bring your yarn to the front and start to work that first knit stitch right after it. Bring the yarn over the top of the right needle and to the back to finish that knit stitch. So that's the knit 1. You need to knit 2 more. And then you're going to slip 1, knit 2 together, pass the slipped stitch over, and you're going to knit 3, and you're going to yarn over. You bring the yarn to the front, you go to work the next knit stitch, take the yarn over the top of the needle and bring it to make that knit stitch, and that's your yarn over and knit 1. And then you're going to slip the marker, and now you have 6 stitches left on your needle. So you're going to do a yarn over, bring it to the front, you're going to knit 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to slip knit. So to slip knit, you're going to take your right hand needle as if you're going to knit these 2 together, but you don't. You're just going to slip them off the needle back here. That twists these 2 stitches. You're going to take your left hand needle again, and you're just going to put it through those 2 stitches and take them back to the left hand needle. You can take your right hand needle and go in the back of those 2 stitches. So instead of coming to the front to knit them, you're going to come into the back to knit them, and you're going to knit them together like that, and that's a slip knit. And then you end the row with a knit 1. So that's row 9. Row 11, 13, and 15 are exactly the same as that. You don't have to move the markers on those rows because you already have it in the right place. When you come back to row 1 again, you're going to need to move your markers, just so you know. All the even numbered rows up here are all purls, again, straight across. So that's it for this video. The next video I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to fix mistakes on the next row and how to run a lifeline. So please join me for that one. Thank you. Bye-bye.